I want to tell you how I was preparing for a CEDS exam. When I got an opportunity to become beta tester of the Canadian exam, I reached out to my colleague who just passed an American exam, and I said, "How do you start?" Because once I got my credentials and I logged into the portal, there are so many materials and videos available, I got overwhelmed. For example, there are 3 chapters by Michael Quartararo talking about everything that you can find in the study manual, which is 120 pages. And I cannot tell you what's better. For a reader, you probably would enjoy the manual better. I recommend printing it and having it available so that you could flip through it. Because of course you can download the PDF and review it on your computer, which you might not be carrying around with you. And then there are 4.5 hours of Michael talking to the audience with the slides, which I started with, but I can tell you I was overwhelmed. The pace is high, and the load of information was like drinking from the fire hose. Now I can tell you, after I read a couple of chapters of the study manual, I became familiar with the presentation and the content, and trust me, I know eDiscovery. I did not necessarily study a lot of new facts, but I needed to understand the presentation, because the point of this certificate is to validate your knowledge, and how to pass the exam is not necessarily how a typical day in the life of a project manager goes. So I printed my material and started reviewing it and making notes. And then when I had a chance, I was listening to Michael's video through my AirPod while I was doing dishes. But I can tell you that alone would not have been what I would consider feeling prepared for the exam. I know my stuff, but I didn't feel prepared taking the exam. And what did it for me were the study groups. Because I took both Canadian and the US exam, I actually participated in 2 study groups, and they turned out to be completely different from one another. The study group for Canada, possibly because it was a beta testers group, had 1 hour presentation over 5 weeks, and we had about 13 people in the group. The 1 hour Zoom call was structured in a way that the moderator would go over the facts of the chapter, which we were expected to read on our own time. And then the team would review between 3 to 7 test questions together. And then the second half hour, we do the same thing with the second chapter. The moderator would give us a rundown of the material. We have an opportunity to ask questions or talk about certain points discussed in the manual. Sometimes share personal anecdotes, but then we dive into the test questions with only some people having an opportunity to participate in the discussion, because time was of the essence and we stayed on time. Now, in the US study group, which was scheduled over a 12 weeks period, we had only 6 participants, and the moderator did not actually go the content of the chapter. That is something we're expected to read on our own. And these 5 people spent an entire hour discussing the study questions. I found both sessions invaluable because the Canadian study group was like a reader's digest as to what the study could be. And the US study group presented an opportunity to negotiate answers and convince one another as to why certain choices are better than others. And in my study group, I had a general counsel, a document review lawyer, a project manager, a production specialist, and everyone was coming from different areas of the eDiscovery industry. A vendor, in-house counsel, document review manager, and then someone who works at the elevator company. And another girl worked at the museum. I didn't even know they do eDiscovery there. Fascinating experience. Invaluable networking opportunities. For me, I connected with all of my study group participants on LinkedIn, and I'm looking forward to sharing their experience of how CEDS exam was for them. Now, there are more materials how you can prepare for the exam, and as part of the certification process, you are supposed to take at least 40 hours of online webinars, seminars, participate in the group discussions. The study groups for me were the most interesting part of my study. But if you're not comfortable in a large group setting, CEDS also provides one-on-one mentorship opportunities, which I think I'm going to sign up and to become someone's mentor. I fell in love with CEDS certification and the process, and I think it's a very valuable investment of time and money to validate your knowledge.